Live, where I am reading all of Eden by FREI live on Facebook and on YouTube. And thankfully, mercifully, the recorded clips then also can be found on Instagram, IGTV. I say thankfully, mercifully, because occasionally it happens, as it did last time, that owing to problems with technology, the stream that goes out live is just not of a very good picture quality. I think the audio is sort of okay, more or less always, but the picture quality sometimes leaves somewhat something to be desired. And when that happens, I only ever find out in retrospect, because it doesn't show me on my monitor. And so I apologize if that's the case, but it means that there is a backup solution, and you will find the recorded clips which do not suffer from these failings on Instagram, on IGTV, and I then ping them back. If you don't like Instagram or don't have it, to the Eden by FREI Facebook page. There is one. So all bases are covered, and so while technology might get us into trouble sometimes, it also then gets us out of it. In that vein, I'm going to read today for you chapter 8 of the Snowflake Collector, the Snowflake Collector being volume 3 of Eden by FREI. This is the illustrated edition, and this is chapter 8. It was, in every imaginable sense, a disaster. No matter how János tried, no matter where he looked, and what he put in his search field, the world did not seem to possess for the Snowflake Collector an answer. Innumerable were the sites and video clips that explained how to preserve snowflakes on microscopic slides or small sheets of acetate, using either, as he had been doing, superglue or hairspray or an artist's fixative, and they all arrived, going by the evidence János could find, at results similar to the ones that the Snowflake Collector so far had reached. But this János knew, for the Snowflake Collector had told him, would not suffice. He would need, the Snowflake Collector had said and determined, a way of collecting his snowflakes in the fullness of their dimensions. And while it may have been the case that in their majority these snowflakes seemed, at first glance, so flat as to fit neatly within a thin layer of superglue trapped between two small plates of glass, the Snowflake Collector knew that this was nothing but a deception and a crass simplification by the lazy mind. In reality, all these snowflakes, even the flattest among them, but most certainly those that came in the shape of short studs, or even, as often they did, in a formation of nearly flat hexagonal structures enjoined with, or indeed by, short column-shaped ones, were miniature crystals of infinitesimal complexity. To squeeze them between two glass plates and store them flat in a wooden case, no matter how carefully crafted, was, to the Snowflake Collector, as looking at the world and declaring it a disk off the edge of which one might fall. The Snowflake Collector knew then that he would have to develop his own substance. He would have to acquire some knowledge, and applying this knowledge, he would, through a process of trial and error and elimination, have to come up with a liquid, a gel, that would have just the right consistency, that would be clear as glass, and that would dry at habitable temperatures with untarnished translucence, and would keep the shape and the intricacy and the character of the snowflake he would encase in it in 3 dimensions for the relative eternity he or any other human being could envisage. Not an eternity then, perhaps, but a lifespan of civilizations, the extent of a physically appreciative, intelligent presence on this planet. A deep crisis of confidence soon engulfed him, for Janos' extended research online remained fruitless. The Snowflake Collector now even undertook his rare and adventurous journey 2 or 3 times by yellow bus and little red train and larger green or white train along the lakes into the biggest of any of the cities in his country, and to the enormous library of the university there, to study the properties of chemical solutions at different temperatures and their reaction to coming in contact with ice. But hours and days and nights and weeks and months of toil, both in theory in the city and in practice at home in his valley, did not yield up to him any liquid or gel or substance of any kind that would catch a snowflake and leave it intact and absolutely unharmed, suspended in a glass cube in 3 dimensions, 1 inch by 1 inch by 1. The Snowflake Collector sensed the end of the season draw near, and with it he felt this abyss of despair once more gaping before him, calling him to fall, drawing him close to surrender, willing him to give in. He did not feel, the Snowflake Collector, that if in this undertaking, as in so many others before, he failed, he would find the strength, the courage, the spirit to pursue it again next winter, or any endeavor. He was now, he felt certain, exhausted, spent. He had given the universe his all, and the universe had once more rejected his offering. Yet again, crushed by defeat and destroyed by his own maybe lofty ambition, he had exerted himself, but he had not excelled. It was, in every imaginable sense, a disaster. The snow melted. The stream, where he had a small plot of land, on which he planted 2 young fir trees for each mature one he cut down, had already swollen with the water from the fast disappearing masses of white that had covered the meadows and the sharp inclines of the mountainside. And the Snowflake Collector was no more. He had ceased to exist. His purpose evaporated like the miserable puddle of water left on the windowsill from the erstwhile snow with the warm morning sun. The devastation was drawn into the furrows of his troubled forehead. And when Janos now came to sit with him outside his hut, their silence was one of sadness and loss. The stale stench of failure now clung about him, the Snowflake Collector knew, and he felt despair, not just for himself, but also for Jan. This friend, this loyal lad, still growing up, still becoming a person, had he not let him down terribly too? Had he not drawn him into this project and made him a part of it? And did not the ruins of it now lie scattered before his innocent eyes, his young heart cut and bleeding? For what? A delusion? A whim? A fantasy? For a false and forever frustrated illusion that there could be such a thing as meaning, as purpose, as friendship and love. Tears ran down the Snowflake Collector's face and fell on the cold, folded hands in his lap, and he felt he was already dead. János could not bear to look at him, but he sat still by his side and bore with him his pain. And thus they remained, awaiting in silence the dread bounce of spring. And this is it for today. This was chapter 8 of the Snowflake Collector. I shall continue with the next chapter, chapter 9, on Monday. I do this every Monday and every Wednesday. Now at 6 o'clock, I have shifted the starting time back to where it at the beginning was meant to be, which is 6 o'clock p.m. London time, GMT, which is, I believe, 1 p.m. EST, and you'll be able to work out what this is in your part of the world. Until then, I wish you well. If the weekend is coming up for you as it is for me very soon, then I wish you a good weekend. Do stay safe and sane and healthy, and love and let love, and see you very soon. Bye-bye.